Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 412 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with Lindsay Adams, and I've known this guy as an Aussie friend of mine for a long time, but you know what? He is got an accolade that only one person in the world has. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Boy, that is really something. Hope you didn't miss episode 411. That was Josh Tapp. He has the Lucky Titan podcast, and he came up with this method to help people in business. He's helped over 500 people with what he calls the Pantheon method. And I thought it was Parthenon, and you had to wear a toga or something, but he corrected me right away. So that's episode 411. And if you want to see a past episode, you just go to screwthecommute.com and then the episode number /411. So there you go. All right, how'd you like to hear your own voice here on Screw the Commute? Well, if the show's helped you out at all in your business or given you an idea to help you start a business, we want to hear about it. Visit screwthecommute.com, look for a little blue sidebar that says send a voicemail. Click on it, talk into your phone or computer, and tell me how the show has helped you. And hey, put your website in there so you get a big shout out on a future episode of Screw the Commute. Now, pick up a copy of our automation ebook. This book has saved me millions of keystrokes and allowed me to ethically steal customers from people too slow to get back to them, to their prospects. So we sell this book for $27, but it's yours free for listening to the show. Pick it up at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Screwthecommute.com/automate free. And while you're at it, pick up a copy of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP, where you can put us on your cell phone or tablet and take us with you on the road. All right, so everybody's freaking about this pandemic, and I certainly feel for the people that have been hurt really bad with it, both physically and emotionally and financially. But I got to tell you, I've been preaching this for 23 years. If you knew how to sell online, myself and my students have no trouble with this pandemic. We're still selling digital and physical products all over the place. So I formalized this training about 13 years ago by starting the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the USA, probably the world. And you can check that out at imtcva.org. It's certified to operate by the State Council on Higher Education in Virginia, USA. But guess what? You don't have to be in Virginia because it's good quality distance learning. And it's been that way the whole time, unlike some of these four-year colleges that are all of a sudden have a distance learning program so they can rip off students even more. Right? So they can teach you how to protest, and then you're competing for jobs at Starbucks when you get out. I'm also going to tell you on how you can get a full scholarship that you can either use yourself or gift to somebody else if you're in my mentor program. So we'll get to that later. All right, let's get to the main event. Lindsay Adams is known around the world as the relationships guy. He teaches business owners and salespeople how to get into relationships quickly and how to leverage those relationships to get more business. And he's a best-selling author, an accomplished conference speaker. That's how I met him, through that. And he was, now listen to this, he was recently recognized by the Australian government and awarded an Order of Australia medal. And I understand that he is the only person in the world in his field to get that. So that is really, really powerful, and we're really proud of him for that. So, Lindsay, you ready to screw the commute?
I certainly am, Tom. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Oh, boy, it's been a long time since I saw you sitting at my kitchen table here in Virginia Beach, a long time ago.
It was a long time, but it was such good fun, and I learned so much. Thank you, buddy.
Well, that's how we roll around here. But boy, I don't have any kind of awards like you got. Boy, that's really something. Now, do you know who put you up for that, or is it secret?
Well, I do know who put me up for it, and I'm not going to say their name. They've asked; they just want to stay
Yeah,
in the
because
background.
everybody else will want them to do it too, probably.
But I got to tell you, it's a 2-year process. This person was having clandestine meetings at coffee shops with my wife, and she was supplying information that they needed for the application. And I got an email from the Governor General's office. That's the highest office in the land of Australia, in September 2019, and it said, "You have been nominated for this award. Will you accept the nomination?" And I printed off this email. I went to my wife and said, "Do you know anything about this?" And she went, "Oh, yeah, been meaning to mention that to you." And of course, I had to keep it secret. You're under an embargo. But I was given the award at the Australia Day Honours on the January 26th.
January 26th. I was reading about that. Yeah, that's beautiful. But this could have gone really bad. You know that, Lindsay. If you'd have thought your wife was having an affair.
and this person is an old and dear friend of mine. So yeah, I guess you could take it.
Wow. Well, congratulations, man. That is one of the highest. That's one of the highest honors you can get in Australia, right?
It is, and it's a huge honor. And the interesting thing, I was interviewed for another podcast by a speaker mate from who's German. And being German, he's very much into detail and structure and rigor and whatever. And he said to me, "Do you realize, Lindsay, that you are the only professional speaker who has been recognized by their government in the world?" And I went, "Well, I never knew that. I never thought of that." And he said, "There are lots of speakers who've been given lots of awards by their speaking, associations, but no one has been recognized by their government." So it's a huge honor, Tom. It really is.
Yeah, and you should be raising your fee right now. I mean, I rose my fee when I was a Cub Scout leader and got a badge. I raised my fee.
So the invoice is in the mail, Tom. the podcast interview.
Oh man, so this relationship thing that you're well known for, it says you get into relationships quickly. That can be bad in the personal arena. I can tell you that from experience.
Well, it's interesting. I've written a book called The DNA of Business Relationships.
Oh, okay, business.
I just called it The DNA of Relationships. And then someone said to me, "So do you do boy-girl stuff?" And I went, "Oh, I've got to be careful about that." So it's business relationships.
Yeah, because in the personal arena, they say, when you see the one, right away. But the problem with that, Lindsay, is when it's the wrong one, it takes years of pain and suffering to figure it out.
Indeed.
Yeah, so you've been making a living teaching people how to build relationships in business. So give us some tips on that.
Well, it's a funny thing. The house I live in, I built myself. Me and my 70-year-old apprentice, my dad. I worked.
Did you say 70 or 7?
70-year-old. So I was working in the Australian Taxation Office, working for the government at the time. I took long service leave. I took 12 weeks off work, and Dad and I built this house. And I built it by relationship. And, Tom, at the time, I didn't really think much about it. But what I did was what I do now in business and what I teach other people to do. I tapped into my network. We all know lots of people, but we often don't think to ask those people for help. And so, I'd say to your listeners now, get out your mobile phone, get out your cell phone, and start scrolling through your contacts. And I guarantee you've got hundreds, maybe thousands of them in your phone.
Yeah, just ask somebody to build you a house.
Well, yeah, but look at those names, and I guarantee you'll find names in there of people that you've forgotten you even knew. And they've got good business networks and good connections. And all you got to do is just reach out and say, "Hey, I'm looking for help with, or I want to connect with, or who do you know who?" And there's, it's really simple to tap into your network. And one of the other things I've found is that people, when they go to business functions, they get really scared talking to strangers. Everyone's really good at the "hello, my name is," and "what do you do?" But after that, there's the sound of crickets. Mm-hmm. And so, we've got to find out we've got to find some common ground with the other person. What have you got in common that you can talk about? With a bloke like you, we talk about, dogs maybe. I've had Cocker Spaniels. I know you've got German Shepherds.
Right.
We could talk about dogs. We could talk about, fat guys playing tennis. I believe you've got a bit.
Yep.
There's all sorts of things that you can talk about if you find out what you got in common.
We could talk about dogs that I've dated too.
Well, so you find the common ground, and then get the other person talking more than you do. So use the 80-20 rule. Get them talking 80% of the time, and you talk 20% of the time. And the way to do that is to ask some open-ended questions. And so, Tom, how many breeds of dogs have you trained?
Yeah, so that's well, we had German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, and we have pet dogs too that we train, so yeah, that just opens up a whole thing right there.
Yeah, and so you can just go down that, that little rabbit hole and just keep asking questions. It gets you talking. And here's the thing, when we finish the conversation and you walk away, you're going to go, gee, that Lindsay Adams, he's such a nice guy. And all I did was get you talking about you.
And they say you're a great conversationalist.
Yeah.
You say 2 words.
Absolutely. And then, here's another thing that I always do. I try to do the PS. Now, you know what a PS is, a postscript. You're writing a letter and you write a PS. I mean, who writes letters these days? But anyway, so a PS in my language, and I wrote about it in the book, is a small act of positive service. Now, I was in the US a couple of years back. I haven't been anywhere in the last 12 months, of course.
Yeah, I mean,
but a couple of years back, I was at a conference. It's lunchtime, I'm at the buffet, I'm in the queue, and I walk up and I finally get to the table. You know how it works. There's a big pile of plates and there's the knives and forks. And so I grabbed a plate and I grabbed the knife and fork bundle, and I turned around to the guy behind me and I looked at his name badge, and his name was Bob. I said, "G'day, Bob. I'm Lindsay. Here's a plate and a knife and fork." Well, this guy, he went, "What? Oh, thanks." And then as we went down the buffet table, filling our plates, we were sort of making idle conversation. Then we sat together and we ate our meal together. That guy has become my second best friend for life.
Wow.
Seriously, I've got an open invitation. Next time I'm in the US, I come stay at his house. We're doing some interesting business things together. And all that stemmed from that simple act of positive service. I handed him a plate.
Well, I guarantee you, Lindsay, if you hand me a plate near a buffet, I'll be your friend too.
So, it just think about how can you serve someone else in a small way that's memorable, that makes you stand out, and keeps you in the forefront of their mind.
Well, perfect example of this just happened an hour ago. I'm on this Clubhouse app. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but so I was scrolling through looking at stuff, and there was an Instagram room that I'm interested. I'm building up my Instagram account. And so I heard them talking about something, and I knew I could contribute. So I put my hand up and I started contributing. It wasn't 5 minutes later, they made me a moderator. And by the end of the thing, this lady that's got a group of 5,000 people is begging me to speak to her group, so just that fast nowadays.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
But that's relationships. I just did a positive service, exactly what you just said, see?
Yeah, exactly. And so, one of the other things I like to do, I've got some custom-made postcards. And if I have a meeting with someone, I'll come back to my office, I'll sit at my desk, and I'll just scribble out a postcard. "Dear Tom, so great to chat with you on the podcast this morning. Really looking forward to the release. Kind regards, Lindsay." Now, 1 or 2 sentences, and I'll post that off. Now, I don't know about you, Tom, but how many handwritten notes have you received in the last little while?
Pretty much maybe 1 in the past 6 months, except I get those fake ones that I can't stand from this send out card stuff.
Yeah.
I'd rather not, I won't even open them. I'd rather not have one than somebody fake, a handwritten note.
I couldn't agree more. I think if you make the effort to put pen to paper, you guarantee that you stand out from the crowd and become memorable. Now, on the front of my postcard, I have a great picture and an interesting saying. And I go to people's offices and I see my postcards pinned up on the wall of their desk cubicle because I don't want to throw them away.
Yep.
And that really keeps me in the forefront of their mind. When they look up from their desk every day, there's a postcard from Lindsay Adams. I mean, that's the way to stand out. That's the way to be memorable. And that's the way to build relationships. And so, here's another thing. When you meet someone for the first time, that is never the time to talk business. The first meeting is always about establishing a relationship. And while you're talking to them, you got to figure out, could I do business with this person? Now, yes, no. If it's a no, then would someone in my key 4 be able to do business with that person? I'm going to come back to that key 4. Hold that thought.
Okay.
And if someone in my key 4 could do business with them, I might keep talking to them. If it's a no for that, then I'm going to stop talking to them. Hey, Tom, lovely meeting you, mate. I see someone over there I've got to go and chat with, and just stop the conversation and move on. Now, is that mercenary? Yep. But are you going to, I'm talking a networking event, where you're going to network and, maybe create opportunities. So now the key 4, let's look at that. So have a look at your hand, Tom. You got a thumb and you got 4 fingers and you got the palm of your hand.
Yep.
The thumb is you. The 4 fingers are 4 of your buddies, business colleagues who share the same target market you do, and that's the palm of your hand, your target market. Share the same target market you do, but do not compete with you. And so, real estate. Let's just go with a real estate example. You're the real estate agent. So the first person in your key 4 is going to be probably, a legal guy, solicitor, conveyancer, someone who settles properties. Second person will be probably an insurance guy. Then you might have a building and pest inspector. You might have a pool guy. You might have can you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, absolutely.
All of these people share the same target market, but do not compete with you. However, you can easily refer business to each other.
Oh, wait a minute, Lindsay. I keep hearing some noise. Is that your chair, or is that a dog, or what is that thing? But I was hearing this noise that sounded like a chair squeaking. What you got? You got chickens or something?
Yeah. I got chickens.
Yeah, I don't care. I just wanted to know what it was. Leave it. Yeah, we're going to leave it in. Yeah, because we like Australian chicken eggs. Well, it's a good delicacy around here.
There we go. There we go. So going back to the key 4, I mean, it's a really simple concept. It's really powerful. Think about 4 other people that you can work with. You refer business to each other. And, it's a great, simple model that works.
Now, see, I'm having trouble seeing how you got to this great point in your life, because you spent, I think it was over 20 years in the government. And I don't know about the Australian government, but our government's not known for real go-getters around here.
So I worked in government 23 years, and I spent 18 of those years in the Australian Taxation Office.
Oh, my goodness.
I was in audit, and I was a team leader in audit, and I went on a manager development program. And this is a real turning point in my life, Tom. It was a 9-month extravaganza. We started off, we did a week-long retreat at a very nice resort about an hour north from where I live. Then we did a 3-month work placement. We did another retreat at a different resort, another 3-month work placement. We then did another week at an island resort just off the coast. And another work placement. All the while we had an action learning project, but 3 different facilitators at each of the retreats. And the third facilitator, end of day 1, he goes, "Okay, boys and girls, we're done. Dinner's at 7. See you at the bar. Lindsay, have you got a minute?" And so I went up to this guy and I said, "How can I help?" And he said, "What are you doing here? You're not like these people. You don't fit." Now, Tom, that question led to a 3-hour conversation.
But it wasn't a mean thing, though, right?
No. He held up a mirror and helped me understand I was in the wrong job.
Wow.
I was in audit. I'm a people person. I'm not an auditor. I hated audit. And one of the placements I actually did, the last placement was in training. And I went, wow, I like this. I'm good at this. So I left audit. I went into training, and I described that as a catalyst moment in my life. And that guy, he lit a fire in me, and it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. I left the public sector, started my own business, and here I am. That was in the year 2000, and here we are 21 years later. I'm still chugging along and having a ball.
So you're saying that one person saw something in you and changed the course of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, Tom. I've had a pretty good career, and I wanted to thank this guy. So somewhere down the track, probably, I don't know, so we'll say 10 years in, I thought, I'm going to go find him and thank him and tell him, all the exciting stuff I've done. Because, in my industry, I've been the state president, the national president. I've been the international president of my industry body. I've done some really good business. I met you along the way and learned some good stuff. So I've done well. Anyway, the first thing I did, I knew where the guy lived. I went to his house. He's no longer there. He's moved. Oh, okay. I look up the phone book. He's no longer in the phone book. Oh, okay. Well, I'll go to LinkedIn. He's not on LinkedIn. I'll go to Facebook. He's not on Facebook. Tom, the guy has just disappeared.
Oh my God. Are you sure he was real in the first place?
I got a friend who's rather spiritual, and she said, Lindsay, he was an angel. Well, whatever he was a huge influence on my life, and I'm deeply grateful to him. And people can have that kind of impact.
Yeah, it's a good lesson for everybody is be careful what you say, what you do, because it can really impact somebody forever. In this case, it was a good impact for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
but apparently the guy didn't read your relationship book because he disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah. Well,
what's the name of that book again?
So the book is called The DNA of Business Relationships.
Where can people get that?
Oh, you can get it on Amazon.
Amazon?
Yeah, go to Amazon. It's there.
Amazon USA and Amazon Australia.
All the Amazons. It's all there. I'd love you to buy a copy. It's I'm working on a new book at the moment called Why Do I Hate My Team When I Hired Them? I'm just finished the first draft now, so stay tuned, mate. We'll come back and talk about that on another podcast.
Right. But the first one is The DNA of what?
Of business relationships.
Business relationships. The DNA of business relationships. I'm writing that down. I'm going to get that right away. Okay. Yeah. So we got to take a brief break. When we come back, we're going to ask Lindsay, especially in the face of the COVID that's around the world, what's a typical day look like for him to keep his business going and how he stays motivated. So folks, I don't know, about 23 years ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing guru world on its head, and that guys like me or women too were charging $50,000 or $100,000 up front to teach you what they knew about internet marketing. And I knew a lot of these people. They'd be hiding out in Australia if you gave them 50 grand in the USA because they wouldn't do anything for you. So I said, you know what? That's not fair to small business. I'm going to turn this on its head. So I charged a relatively small entry fee and then tied my success to their success. So for me to get my 50 grand, you had to make 200 grand. Well, guess what? People love this. And 23 years later, 1,700 plus students and still going strong. And it's the longest running, most unique, most successful internet marketing mentor program ever. And I have no trouble saying that, even though I didn't win an award from the government over it. But I'll tell you what, I've dared people to put their program up against mine, and nobody will do it because I'm just a crazy fanatic. I work day and night and weekends and holidays. I could have quit years ago, but I just love it, seeing the success of those other businesses. So you can check that out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. And besides all the unique features like an immersion weekend at the retreat center, and we have a TV studio where we shoot videos for you. It's all one-on-one. So with my whole team, you're not lumped in with a bunch of people. If you're lumped in with people more advanced, you're lost. If you're lumped in with people beginning, you're bored. So we don't like that. So it's all one-on-one. And you do get a scholarship to our school if you're in the mentor program, which you can either use yourself or gift to somebody else. And we had one guy, he spent $80,000 on his crappy education for his daughter, and she's working a crappy job. He joined the mentor program, gifted the scholarship to her. She's making $6,000 a month as a side hustle before even 4 months into the school. So this is extremely powerful stuff that's in demand by every business on earth. So it's not any worthless classes that you'll never use in a million years. It's things that people need and are in demand. And a selfish thing about this is your kids won't come home and live in your basement. They'll have their own money. So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. All right, let's get back to the main event. Lindsay Adams here. He's known as the relationship guy, and he won the Order of Australia medal. And that is like big deal. He's the only one in the world in his field that's ever done that. So that's just amazing. So Lindsay, what's a typical day look like for you? Because, none of us are speaking as in live events as much as we used to.
Yeah. So COVID's been interesting. Now in Australia, we're pretty lucky. COVID pretty much doesn't exist here. Although we did go into a really hard lockdown this time last year, and pretty much all of my live events got cancelled. I'm a member of Professional Speakers Australia. That's my industry body, and we had our annual convention. It was this weekend last year, and that was kind of the last face-to-face event that I attended. And in that next week, pretty much all of my bookings got cancelled.
Right.
And I went, okay, what am I going to do? Now, I'm approaching retirement, so I'm 63 years old. I'm never going to stop working, but
yeah, I get it.
Anyway, so there'll come a day when I don't want to get on a plane and fly here and fly there. And so for a couple of years now, I've been building a profiling tool website. So I sell assessment tools that are used by coaches, consultants, speakers, trainers. And so I thought, well, then I'm going to focus on that. And so I've really spent a lot of my time focusing on building that business and marketing these tools. So a typical day for me, I'm going to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning here. It's warm at, now we're coming into our fall or autumn, but it's still quite warm. So I'm lucky. I live in a little acreage block. There's a lot of forest nearby. I go for a walk through the forest, come over next to breakfast, and then first thing I do is go online and see who's bought stuff overnight. And I know, Tom, you've got the ka-ching.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that you taught me, was the first thing you do in the morning was go and see how many sales you made overnight.
And that makes your breakfast go down much easier.
Yeah. So I love doing that. And then, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and Facebook and just, maybe make a post or two or comment on some stuff, or, because I'm the relationships guy, I do work hard at keeping in touch with people. And the other thing that I like to do is I make 10 contacts a day. And so that might be a how are you call. And so remember I said, get out your cell phone, get out your mobile phone and just flick through and look at your contacts. I just go through my contacts and I go, oh, Tom Antion, I haven't spoken to him for a while. And I'm just going to ring him up and I go, g'day, Tom, Lindsay here. How are you, mate? What you up to? Now, the ultimate goal might be to sell Tom something, but I'm never going to say that on the call. Now, it's really interesting what happens when you speak to these people. Some will just say, oh, well, life's good. Thanks for the call. And others will go, oh, wow, it's timely that you called because, we need someone like you. And so it's amazing what comes by just simply staying in touch with people and making a how are you call.
So none of them say, like, what do you want?
No. And,
if I hit old girlfriends, they do.
Yeah. So, just staying in touch with people and working that relationship really pays dividends.
So do you have some mechanism to really keep track? Because there's a lot of people in your life over all these years.
Yeah.
Do you just randomly do it?
I got a CRM.
Okay. Do you jot down what you talked about and so forth, or if they have kids and dogs and stuff like that?
Yeah. While I'm talking, I'll make a few notes. It's not anything complex. I don't want to waste a lot of time. I'm not very disciplined, believe it or not, at keeping real detailed notes. I'm not like some But I do enough that there's some memory joggers for me, so that when I call them back in, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years time, I go, hey, Tom, last time we were talking, you told me you're still training attack dogs. How's that going?
Yeah.
Has your dogs eaten anyone lately?
Well, yeah, but I'm left-handed now because they got my right.
And
Thanks for
so,
asking.
yeah. And the other thing I do, of course, is I spend a lot of time supporting the people who buy my profiling tools. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I wholesale the DISC profile, and the DISC, it's been around since the 20s, but it is the most popular online behavioral assessment tool, and it's so versatile. So I've got that, and a motivators profile, emotional intelligence, learning styles, thinking styles. So, really, really simple stuff, but it's all highly relevant for the people that I deal with,
Now, when
And
are we going
so,
to see this second book coming out?
well, I finished the first draft yesterday, so it's off to the editor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to, I'm guessing about in a month's time, probably.
This going to be a
Uh,
physical book or ebook or both or what?
it's going to be both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, there are still people around my age who like to hold a book.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I like to mark them up. I write in them. I don't know. Some people think that's
yeah,
blasphemous, but I'm write in and underline stuff and everything.
yeah, yeah. I mean, with today, like Amazon Prime, I I just love that. I
Mm-hmm.
go on, I find a book, I order it, and it arrives the next day. I mean,
Hey, I
what a
just
system.
heard of one yesterday. I was in a mastermind called, oh, what the heck's the name? It's called Exactly What to Say is the name of it.
Okay.
And the guy that told us about it was really raving, and he's used some of the techniques, and he says, yep, you say this and you get this kind of response. It was in the book, and he said, yeah, I've been realizing that myself. So there's
Well,
another one for
it's
you.
funny. I'm reading a book at the moment called "You Should Talk to Strangers" by a woman called Kerry Phipps.
Ah,
And, it's a great read as well, and it sort of fits my my relationship stuff.
mm-hmm.
So I love reading, and there's always a book or two beside my lounge
Yep.
or couch, so that my wife loves television. I'm not a big fan of television, so she watches and I read.
Yeah,
Uh,
beautiful. So how should people get a hold of you? Now, they can buy all these books on Amazon, but if they needed to get a hold of you, do you do any other kind of coaching or consulting?
yeah, so I do a lot of consulting, and I speak at conferences, and of course I do one-on-one coaching.
Okay.
So the way to get a hold of me, you can go to my website, lindsayadams.com. It's complicated, or my email. This is even more complicated. Lindsay@lindsayadams.com.
It's LINDSAY.
Correct. Yeah, and ADAMS.
Yep. And so we'll have
Not
all that
like,
in the show notes for everybody
not
to.
like the TV family with two Ds. The Adams family.
Oh, right.
And the profiling website is 24/7, 24x7assessments.com.au. So if you
24x7 assessments.
.com.au.
.com.au. Got it.
So yeah, if you want to have a look at some assessment tools which you can use with your clients, and here's the beauty of that little business is I sell them at a really keen price, so that
Mm-hmm.
my clients buy them, and then I encourage them to add on a margin, and then they resell them to their clients, so they
Right.
actually add enough income to their business.
Nice. Yeah.
So I've been doing that for 20 years, and in fact, it's funny how things happen, Tom. I did an assessment 20-something years ago when I was working in government, and then I used that a lot in my business. And they gave me a lifetime achievement award. I sold over 2,500 of their assessments.
Wow.
Which means I tipped about $500,000 into their bank account. And then I sat back one. They gave me the certificate, and they made a big fuss, and they took me out for lunch, which was very nice. And then I started pondering this, and I thought, hang on a second. Why don't I do this? And that's when I started looking around and building the assessment tool business.
Absolutely.
Because I thought to myself, well, I know how much money I put in their bank account. Imagine if I had 100 or 1,000 people doing that for me. So that's the goal.
There, it's beautiful, beautiful. Well, thanks so much, man. It's great catching up with you.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm delighted to share a little of the Lindsay Adams story with you and your listeners.
Yep, and I'm going to go get that book right now. And folks, you go jump on it too. The DNA of Business Relationships. Is that correct?
That's it.
DNA of Business Relationships, and then give us the title of the upcoming book.
The upcoming book is Why Do I Hate My Team When I Hired Them?
I love that one.
Yeah, it's all about understanding people, and it's based on the DISC profile.
You got to understand yourself too, right?
Absolutely, and understand yourself first, and then you can figure out why you don't get on. Why you get on well with someone and why you don't get on well with the other person.
Exactly.
It's all because your behaviors, your personality. So interesting stuff.
Beautiful. All right. Well, tell Rail I said hi, and tell him your podcast too. Again, or we didn't even say your podcast.
The Business Excellence Podcast. So my buddy Rail Bricker and I run the Business Excellence Podcast. You can find it at all good podcast places. We're up to our I think 50-something episode. We're just a little behind Tom Antion, but we're coming after you, buddy.
Bring it on, man. Bring it on. So so the Business Excellent Podcast. We had a good talk. I don't know if it hasn't come out yet, my episode, but
I'm probably going to put
a lot of good guests on there. I'll let you get back to your chickens, or chooks, I guess you call them, right?
That's it. I'll go and see how many eggs they laid for me today.
There you go. All right. Yeah. Have a good relationship with them. That's what I say. So, all right, man. We'll catch you later, Lindsay, and we'll catch everybody on the next episode.